I'm curious about this Kyle Morlock because we had Jared Verse last year, obviously playing in obscurity at Albany, but there were things
Mhm.
that led to him kind of going under the radar and landing at a place like that. Um, Jaheim Bell was obvious as soon as I saw that land, and Logan, you would let us know that that was about to happen. I'd seen him at South Carolina. I know that he's a freak. He's playing in the NFL and he produced in the SEC. But Kyle Morlock, have you guys seen the tape on him? How do we know that he's that good? And obviously, they're going after a player at Shorter University.
I was going to say, just trust evaluation. Trust what Bell has done so far on the offensive side. Look at Trey Benson. We all were not too fond, maybe initially, of like, okay, looking at the injury, not too pretty there. Not a lot of experience on the college level either. He comes and he works out, things work out smoothly, and then boom, he's now your starting running back going into 2023, leading rushing yards. I think that the valuation is probably the biggest thing, and we got to start giving credit to the staff on doing that with a lot of these players. And you saw with Johnny Wilson, a guy that really not a lot of respect was put on the name, and not that there should have been for him at Arizona State. And there's still a lot of things that Johnny Wilson can get better at, but he ended up being a big time player for Florida State offensively. I think it's all about evaluation. With Jared Verse, you kind of knew that he was in like kindergarten as like a 9th grader, 10th grader. Like, it was just not fair with the competition he was going against. And you saw him play against Syracuse and bring that same type of play. But Florida State, offensively and in the tight end room, they need this kind of guy at 6'7", extremely athletic. Not primarily he can block, but you can still use him for a variety of different things. And you could run some trips. You could have Johnny Wilson out to the side with him. You could put Kyle out wide left. You could have Jaheim Bell in the H-back. There's just a different kind of variety of things that Florida State's now going to be able to do in that tight end room that they haven't been able to do in years past. And you're losing Cam McDonald off, and you've seen some signs from Marquise and Douglas. This whole tight end room's revamped, but yeah, I think just trusting evaluation, James, in my opinion, has been something that Florida State has been able to kick on the last 2-3 years, going back to maybe even Deshaun Corbin with what they were able to do with him.
Yeah, and also look, I mean, it's not like Florida State was the only one begging for his services. Everybody wanted him at one point. 6'7", 250 pounds. You don't have to be a devastating blocker. You got to be a willing one. That's why you have Biscuit over there, who's the better of your blockers. Jaheim Bell isn't the greatest blocker either. He's more of a Swiss Army knife kind of guy. But what he's able to do is give you another big target that, whether he's able to excel this, whether it was D2 level or not, he was able to give you almost 1,000 yards receiving in his 2 years as Shorter in that position in the box, basically playing power forward. And that's something that we haven't had consistently. I think about the LSU game. I think about Clemson. I think about some of the games where we try to dump it off to our tight end and it's just out of reach or it's a drop. Well, we need some sure hands that are there. And I think that just gives you another option. And even if we go 2 tight end sets or even with one, when you have a 6'7", 250 guy, you got Johnny Wilson, you got your other wide receiver weapons. You have to adapt for that. You have to be able to create matchups for that as a defensive coordinator. And the more you get guys substituting, the more you allow the opportunity for mismatches to come up. And I think that's really what Morlock does, is give Florida State an opportunity to have mismatches.
Mm-hmm. One thing, too, Florida State, one of their most inconsistent things was red zone this year. Jaheim Bell, Kyle Morlock, that's going to improve it there. And look at what Mike Norvell is able to do navigating against some of these defenses. They got to do better consistency-wise in that red zone and scoring and leaving away with 6 points. So, Kyle and Jaheim should be able to help with that quite a bit.